Coming up on Bullseye, we sit down with the most decorated rodeo cowboy of all time, Trevor Brazile. How good is he? Well, he earned the nickname, the King of the Cowboys. And despite his early success, his game plan never stopped evolving.
It wasn't until I won my first single event title that I thought that I'd been going about this all-around deal all wrong, because I'm trying to win the world championship in any event that I'm competing in, and it's going to be taking care of the all-around.
How many hours as a kid did you spend doing that?
Well, I was an only child and didn't have any other hobbies, so that's about all I did. This is it.
He's out, got it on him. Go on, Trev, big chance right here.
When it went around the calf's neck to flanking and tying, everything was just muscle memory, because there was no decision if you're going 1 wrap, 2 wraps, because it was a first or nothing scenario.
It says, you know what, Tuf? If you're gonna beat me, you're gonna have to come do it, buddy.
Hi everyone, I'm Jeff Metters. Welcome to Bullseye. The 1990s was an incredible decade in terms of rodeo history. You had the Edbauer brothers, Joe Beaver, Marvin Garrett, Fred Whitfield, just to name a few. And Ty Murray became the most decorated all-around cowboy of all time, or at least until that time. Lightning did strike at the 1998 National Finals Rodeo, but very few people noticed it. A kid from Texas made his first trip to Las Vegas. Trevor Brazile qualified as a heeler in team roping. He would never qualify as a heeler again, but 1998 did mark the beginning of his complete dismantling of rodeo's record books. King of the Cowboys, who came up with that name? And that's got to be a tough name to live up to.
Oh, I've heard it before, but it was never pertaining to me. You know, I'd see them talking about Ty Murray or somebody like that, and rightly so. I mean, because he's the whole reason I wanted to achieve what I have achieved. And so, I don't know, it still feels weird with them putting it by my name, because I still feel like I was a student, you know, all the way through. I just looked up and I was 42 years old, and it was time to be done.
You got on a roll, you won like 13 out of 14 all-arounds. What was that stretch like? Was it, you know, I mean, when you look back on it, was it just kind of automatic?
It didn't feel like that, because no? I know.
It looked like that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, I guess it was 02, 03, 04. Everything's maybe starting to feel like I kind of got it figured out. And then 05, nothing goes right. And 05 probably taught me more than all the other years combined, because I'd spread myself pretty thin. I started doing a lot more stuff outside of my practice arena. I started, whether it just be training horses or extra appearances, or just taking my focus off of what had got me to where I was wanting to get to in the past. But that 1 year was probably the biggest motivator by far in my career, because I never let that happen again. I made a promise to myself that I was going to get beat, but I wasn't going to help them beat me.
Yeah, that was like the perfect storm, though. You know, you had like the winter tour, the summer tour, and the big finale, and Ryan Jarrett was in a situation where he had to run the table to make it in 2 events. You know, and when you kind of got to those last 2 finales, it didn't look very good for him, and everything just kind of fell his way. And you know, I mean, he misses a steer here or whatever. He's not at the NFR in 2 events. So,
but at the end of the day, I wasn't at the finals in 2 events, and that was the only thing that I could control from my vantage point. And you set yourself up for situations like that if you're not doing your job.
Then you rattle off 10 in a row. So, yeah,
that one might have been the sacrificial lamb for the other 10, but not that it needed to happen, but it was a game changer for me, because I used 2005 to motivate me, whether it was 2012 or 2006, it didn't matter.
When did breaking Ty Murray's record kind of get on the map with you?
Well, people talked about it maybe after They might have started talking about it after 1, 2, 3, but 7 felt so far away from 3 that it's not even funny, because I knew how long it took me up into the point to where I had 3 all-around championships, that it still felt like eternity away. So I'm gonna say until I got 5 or 6, it wasn't on my radar, because I know how fast that sport can humble you, and there's new guys coming all the time. And in order to reach a goal like he said, every year has got to be better than everybody else's best year.
You found a good rhythm with the all-around. How important was it to win, the other event titles, a tie-down roping world championship, a team roping world championship?
It wasn't until I won my first single event title that I thought that I'd been going about this all-around deal all wrong, because my focus shifted, and I'm trying to win the world championship in any event that I'm competing in, and it's going to be taking care of the all-around.
When we come back, we'll talk family tradition. Trevor married into one of the greatest roping families of all time.
It should feel like a competition, but it doesn't, because it almost feels like you have an advantage being from that family.
Bullseye is brought to you by Cinch Jeans and Shirts.
Welcome back to Bullseye. Let's talk in-laws. In fact, you can make your favorite in-law joke right here. Mine would be, what's the difference between in-laws and outlaws? Well, at least the outlaws are wanted. For Trevor Brazile, he could not have picked a tougher family to have married into. If you want to be the greatest roper of all time, why would you want a father-in-law whose nickname is the Super Looper? There had to be an easier family to marry into than the Cooper family.
Man, at the time, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot easier families to marry into, but at the time, that was exactly, I mean, I couldn't have wrote it any better. I mean, had my rodeo idol right there, being able to, rodeo with him eventually, and just so happened to have a beautiful stepdaughter that would never hurt anything. And it was awesome for an 18-year-old kid.
Yeah, just the competition, just the tips that you got from him and everything down that line.
I never even looked at it as competition then,
Yeah.
because I mean, in my mind, I was nowhere near that level. You had him, and Strand was, on the scene then. That was before the boys obviously had really done anything in junior rodeo even. I remember when I showed up there, Tuf and Cliff were 6 and 8. I remember them shooting me with bows and arrows.
As that kind of, but I mean, as it goes on, Strand's a world champion. Tuf obviously has written a pretty good chapter, or 2 of rodeo. How did that dynamic work? I mean, was it all still positive? Was it competitive? What was it like?
It should feel like a competition, but it doesn't, because it almost feels like you have an advantage being from that family that practices like that. And even how it was when I finished, it was me and Tuf, and if Cliff was rodeoing or making the finals that year, we would all be, within 3 arenas practicing, and it just felt like it was always easier when iron was sharpening iron, So when you showed up somewhere, it wasn't like you had to measure yourself by the competition. We were every day or week we were getting, projected to that next level, because that competition was a daily thing.
You got steer roping horses, you have tie-down roping horses, you have team roping horses, and then you have a year where Shada wants to make the NFR in barrel racing. That had to be a good time, but I also had to add to your logistical nightmare.
Yeah, I just thought I was busy till we did that. And I think we were obviously had grown up in it and had been doing it for however many years and however many world championships I had at that time, and still naive to the fact that, man, this is going to be fun. We'll be able to rodeo together. No. What was a good run for me, or being able to get all my events was a terrible run on the ground for barrel racers, and it just seemed like it never lined up. We ended up probably seeing less of each other, you know, just crossing paths that year than we had any year prior. But it was all worth it because, man, it was something to pull off what she had pulled off that year. Not really rodeoing ever. You know, some in high school, towards the end of her high school career, and then in college, and then set that back and helped me. And then, you know, when she told me she was gonna go try to make the finals, you know, I feel bad even saying it now, but it was from a protective standpoint. I was just like, man, I know what these girls do. I mean, this is their life. This is all they've done since they were little girls. And it didn't matter. She set a goal and she did it. Whether it was doing a baby clothing line that I thought might not work, she made it work. So nothing she does ceases to amaze me now. But what a fun NFR once we get there. You know, it's got pictures of me and Tuf on the back of the truck that brings in the barrels each night. It backs into the box, and we get done with the calf rope, and we go stand on the back of that truck and watch her run every night. That was the NFR, probably my most memorable NFR for sure, because it was so busy, but we were all just trying to take it all in.
She enjoyed it? She had fun at the NFR?
She did,
Yeah.
and that's what was so hard about it, because I knew how much she enjoyed it. And I was so happy for her to be able to reach that goal, but also in the back of my mind knowing that she did it with a 2- and 4-year-old with her, you know, being a mom too, and I had a feeling that she would never make that type of sacrifice again, and ended up being right, but it was just something she wanted to do, and she went and got it done.
All right, confession time. I grew up on a ranch, but I know absolutely nothing about roping. But that's about to change.
You'll separate them and put your pinky down and your thumb up until you cover the right horn and then the left horn. You're gonna get him doctored.
All right, this is the humiliation segment, because I'm telling you, I'm a terrible roper. If I paid to get in your clinic, you give me my money back. Give me just give me the 411 on heading right here.
All right, well, this is when you're swinging your rope. If you were to open your hand and draw a circle around your hand, that's the top strand and that's the bottom strand. And as you're swinging it, we're gonna rope right horn to left horn. And so when you release the rope, I want your thumb up and your pinky down as you go across until you cover both horns, and then you can turn it over and grab your slack. But other than that, I saw you swinging on it back there. I don't think I have to go over your swing, but I'm anxious to see if in your delivery, if you can get them both at the same time, because if people put their strands together, it's going to go straight over their head. But if you'll separate them and put your pinky down and your thumb up until you cover the right horn and then the left horn, you're going to get him doctored.
All right, show us the right way to do it first.
The right way. It's my way. I don't know if it's the right way or not.
How many hours as a kid did you spend doing that?
Well, I was an only child and didn't have any other hobbies, so that's about all I did. This is it.
Camera guys, you guys are in trouble.
Everybody's in trouble right here.
Everybody,
get a little closer.
Everybody's
closer,
in trouble at this point.
There we go. Cut.
So close.
It couldn't have been the rope, because
Yeah,
I made the rope. So.
Yeah, you gave it to me perfectly.
Yeah. Let's try it one more time.
All right.
That time, don't speed up anything in your delivery. You can't throw faster than you're swinging, and just be smooth.
Just keep it all.
Be smooth.
Keep it all like one motion.
Your right hand's got to come across, not your left hand. Okay. The only thing I see now is you're throwing it. As you're releasing it, you're holding on to this one strand.
Okay.
When you throw, you're going to just open your hand completely. You just dropped the bottom strand and just held on to this.
Okay.
So
I'm just pushing across it.
Well, let me show you right here.
All right.
When you throw, I just want you to like release it.
Okay.
When you were throwing, you were holding on to this.
Okay.
So what shrinks your loop at a really high rate of speed. Okay.
All right.
Get up there a little bit closer.
Get up there where you're just pretty much riding them.
Just smooth. There you go.
Oh yeah.
I
Had a lot of trouble with my slack, but
was
hey.
wondering who was going to fill my shoes. Cat's out of the bag now.
All right, well, but let's all right, now here you take it.
Okay.
And now let's go back like a 3-point contest. Let's go back here, and I'm not going to throw, but I want to see you throw from back here just for fun.
Well,
Let's add to a degree of difficulty for you.
all right.
Never a doubt.
Even in retirement, we were able to pull that one off. I was a little nervous there for a minute.
When we come back, we'll talk about Trevor's Hollywood ending at last year's Wrangler NFR as he outdueled his brother-in-law, Tuf Cooper, for the all-around world title.
I had to win the round or finish 2 places higher than Tuf. In my mind, that meant win the round.
We did a reality show with you, Relentless.
Yeah.
You're such a private person. And
Yeah.
So you let members of our crew kind of all summer just kind of hang out with you. What was that experience like?
It was fun. It was like knowing I had a public speaking engagement, the stress leading up to it. But once I got into it, it was fun. It's just getting to know the crew good enough to let down and be myself in front of them. And so all in all, it ended up getting better as we went. And I'm thankful for doing it, because always having that, because it was times like it happened to be right during the time where we had to make an emergency plane landing to get to the short round at Pendleton, or just stuff that I wouldn't have had documented any other way, and just anything that could bring a little bit more of the public eye to rodeo was what I always wanted to be able to do too, to try to help elevate the sport.
Once you're back in the box, let's go back to tie down roping. Let's just pick a random go round. Let's say round 10 of last year's NFR. Walk me from the time you rode your horse into the box, from the time you got back, threw your hands up and got back on your horse.
Well, the 10th round adds a whole different dimension, because you've got the round, you've got world standings, and you've got the average all going on that last day. And so as each guy in front of me ropes, I know where they are in the average and what they've done, if they've held their spot or if they've opened it up to where, because if I went into the 10th round thinking I had to win the round and someone messes up and drops out of the average, and by default I move up in the average no matter what, then I've got to know the figures that changes. I mean, so all you kids out there that think you're skipping school just to rodeo, you're gonna need it.
Yeah.
If you're any good at what you do, you're gonna need it, because I mean it's so much about the changing from somebody dropped out of the average to having to win the round to now you can win 4th in the round. But that wasn't the case for me. Everybody held their spot, and when I went, the scenario was I had to win the round or finish 2 places higher than Tuf. And in my mind, that meant win the round, because if he ties anything down, it's going to be hard to be that, 2 places higher than him, and that's a tall order anywhere. So going in there, 7-4 was winning the round, and I knew I had to be faster than 7-4. It was crazy, because I had a calf that I knew ran pretty hard, and I got a really good start. And so when I was really close to the barrier, I could see I was going to have a throw pretty fast. But the only problem was the neck rope off the calf caught my leg, and it pulled my left leg back as I was throwing. And you can see it in the video. I could feel it, but it's one of those things you're kind of blacked out a little bit. You're just trying to get the job done.
Right.
And then from then on, when it went around the calf's neck to flanking and tying, everything was just muscle memory, because there was no decision if you're going 1 wrap, 2 wraps, because it was a first or nothing scenario for me. And so it was a wrap and a hook and get back on and see what it had. And I went to the lead in the round and held the lead throughout the rest of the competition, and that was what I had to do.
As you rode in and back in the box, could you hear? I mean, were you paying attention to the crowd, or were you just totally inside your head?
I mean, I feel like you hear, like as you're waiting to ride into the box, I feel like you hear because there's your certain cues, like, all right, they're ready for me. But then once you get in there and get turned around, it's trying to send your horse the right signal, you know, because that's, in every event that I did, they were key. And Deputy was the horse I was on at that time, and I was just making sure that I was sending him the right signals, because if he feels me tense up and feels it's a premature cue to go or to pull back too much, it messes up the entire run. So as far as noise goes, you hear it all going into it, but when you hit the corner, it's just about the two things that you're trying to think: score, rope, and then let everything else take over from there.
On the next edition of Bullseye, we'll dig a little bit deeper with the king of the cowboys. We'll talk in depth about that final run at last year's Wrangler NFR. We'll talk about his decision to retire and life after retirement. Like everything else he does, it's all planned down to the finest minute detail. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Bullseye.
Experience and wisdom is only good if you use it. You know, even with that, you can still get caught up in all the hoopla out there in Vegas, and you got to be careful what you buy into. That 10th go around had more pressure than any calf, steer, anything I've ever tripped the gate on.